it's me, Nikki. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And today we have the annual slash r/fantasy 2023 book bingo challenge. I always want to put a slash where it shouldn't be. So, and as always, they have a April Fool's Challenge because it's always on April 1st when it starts. But you can pretty much start anytime. I will link the official challenge, the April Fool's Challenge, if you want a challenge, the bingo card, and the recommendation list all down below. So, let's get started. I have books piled everywhere, so I'm going to have to go through them. They're not in order. So they have, it's a bingo, you know. You get rows, and you can fill up the whole card. And then I was not on the ball, but if you submit it before April 1st of 2024, there's prizes I think you can win. I forgot to do that. So, and they have hard mode, which is just more difficult. You don't have to do hard mode, but you know, it's like, ooh, let's see if I can do it. And then a hero mode is to review every book that you read for bingo. And you don't have to review it on r/fantasy. You can review it anywhere. Again, there's no prizes, but it's just something to do. You cannot use the same book more than once. You can't repeat the same author unless it's in the short stories. Only one square can be a reread. You can substitute one square from this year's card from any previous card. So like there's a horror one. If you're not into horror or you really can't find any books, just use them. That's and all this information is here, so you know. You don't even have to join r/fantasy, but I recommend it. It's a really great group. So first, let me make sure I have everything. Okay, first is a title with a title. Do I have that on my lap? I do. No, it's over here. Which is to read a book in which the novel title contains a job title, military title, or title of nobility. Hard mode is not royalty title. So I am reading The Monster by Cormorant. Monster is her title. So this is hard mode. Now I have to find a place to put all these down. Fantastic. I didn't think about that when I pulled them off my shelves. There are literally books everywhere. You can't see them, but they are everywhere. This is insane. I have too many books. That's also the point for me. None of these are rereads. These are all 23. There's only 2 I don't own. To tick off my TBR shelf. So yeah. But I am nervous and excited to read this because the first one was heartbreaking, and I can only assume it gets worse for Baru. So, yes. Fuck. We'll just put it on the floor, and I'll find another pile for it later. Next is superheroes. Self-explanatory. Hard mode and not related to DC or Marvel. It's over here somewhere. It is. I have X-Men and the Avengers, Gamma Quest Trilogy Book 1. I've had these for so long. I got them when I was really into the X-Men. I have a ton of X-Men books. And I have never read them. So this is not hard mode, because this is Marvel. That's Storm, Cap, and Wolverine. And I believe they've teamed up in the comics, so, like, this isn't their first team up. But, they're teaming up because Scarlet Witch and Rogue disappear. And there's a high security government installation. Surprising. That's a separate pile because that's a mass market paperback. We'll have 3 piles. Next is Bottom of the TBR. Read one of the books that's been on your TBR the longest. If you don't keep a TBR, a book that's been you've been meaning to read. Hard mode, there is none, because it says actually finishing a book you've been putting off for so long is hard enough. I put yes anyway for hard mode, because it is a hard mode. But it is, technically, I guess this is a reread, but it's because I'm trying to finish the series, and I don't remember anything about it. Trader's Moon by Lynn Llewellyn. This comes after, this is the third in this series. There's like 6 or 7 books. Sergio, I've forgotten how to pronounce that, and Alec, they're in an exile from, because of what happened in book 2. I just remembered what happened in book 2. I don't want to tell you. So yeah. And then more stuff happens. I assume not great stuff because of the cover. But yeah. Excited for this one too. Because I don't remember it. And I think that was the last one I've read before the book series finished. Next is magical realism or literary fantasy. Read a book that portrays magical or unreal elements in an otherwise realistic or mundane environment. It says this is a hard square to pin down because it often just comes down to vibes. And there's a list, and the hard mode is not one of the 30 books in the linked thread. So now I'm checking. Okay. I have picked, that might be on my list. Yes, it is. City of Beasts by Isabel Allende. This is not, she is on the list, but this book is not on the list. I didn't know this was magical realism until I think I saw the list and I go, I have one of her books. This is also translated from Spanish. She's Chilean, I believe. I just looked her up. She's related to Pedro Pascal, or Pedro's related to her. His dad is a cousin of hers, or I'm not sure, but there's relation there. So yeah. And this is about Alexander and Nadia, and they go to the Amazon rainforest. So, I don't know if I've ever read a magical realism book. That's always sort of put me off, but I'm gonna try it and see if I like it. I think there's only 3 books in this series. So that is hard mode. Next is young adult. Read a book that was written for young adults. And hard mode is it's published in the last 5 years. And I have, oh Jesus, it's gonna get heavy. Dark of the West by Joanna Hathaway. I put yes for hard mode, but I'm not even sure. 2018. Let's do some math. Oops. That is 5 years, so it counts. Here we go. And, oh, it's right here. And this is about Aurelia and Athen, a fighter pilot. Interesting. And they sort of just like each other. Somebody, this was in the, this is how I thought of this, because I had a lot of YA books I didn't know what to pick. But this was in the thread of recommendations. I think somebody says that it's like World War II-ish, which I find intriguing. So, and now that they say that, there's a plane up there. So yes, I am super intrigued about this. That's the hardback books. Let's see. Next we have... Oh, close that thread. Mundane jobs. The protagonist has a commonplace job that can be found in the real world. Hard mode does not take place on Earth. Where is mine? Oh, I have it here. Mine is The Dragon's Path by Daniel Abraham. This was also on the thread of recommendations. I can't remember. I just saw the title. I was like, don't tell me anything about it. I think I did read a little bit, but I think I might start over. I don't remember anything. There is a priest in here, so I don't know if that counts. As I just saw it, and I was like, yes, I have that. So this is hard mode, because this is a fantasy book. And I should have said, since it is r/fantasy, it's mostly fantasy or sci-fi books you can read for this. No nonfiction or contemporary. And this is about 3 people, an orphan, a ex-hero, and a scion of a noble house. And at some point, I believe, all of them come together and shit happens. Next is published in the 2000s. Read a book published from 2000 to 2009. Hard mode not in the top 30 of their best of 2023 list. And I picked my other X-Men book, which is where? Oh, I keep thinking it's a paperback, but it's not this one. Oh Lord. It is X-Men Shadows of the Past. And this was published in 2000, and I highly doubt it's in, I don't think it's in their list. And this is about a alien who tried to conquer Earth. Professor X stopped him, and apparently that cost him the use of his legs. I don't know if this is canon to the comics. I don't know if any of these books are canon to the comics. Now Professor X says he has evidence of a secret invasion. Obviously, there's always a secret invasion. But they're like, is it a lie? Does Professor X have a hidden agenda? And then a normal human questions the bizarre behavior of Professor X. So, I do like the cover. It's very shiny. I think that's Jean Grey. Oh, yeah. Because there's Cyclops and Hank. And I suppose that's Professor X. I don't know why it's just those 3, but okay. They probably play a big role in it. There we go. My hair's sticking up. Number 8 is Angels and Demons. Story must feature angels or demons or both in a prominent role. Hard mode, the protagonist is an angel or demon. This one took a while. Oof. I had to really, like, those recommendation threads helped a lot because apparently there are angels and demons in Malice, which I didn't know about, but it is not hard mode. I read a little bit of this as well, but I might start over again. I'm not sure. We'll see. It's so thick, floppy. So that's what I'm reading for that. Next is 5 short stories. Any collection, as long as there are 5 of them. And hard mode is to read the entire thing. And I'm picking, here it is, Trigger Warning, Short Fictions and Disturbances by Neil Gaiman. I got this in a book box, and I was like, when am I ever going to read short stories? That's almost always a permanent, I think this one's permanent, self-published or indie publishers permanent, and book club or read-along book. And I believe they just made POC author a permanent one. Everything else sort of... Novella might be permanent as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But yes. So here we go. Always keep your short story collections. The only thing I've ever read by Neil Gaiman is Good Omens, and he only wrote half of that. So we'll see. And I'm going to read the whole thing. So that's hard mode. Next is horror. Read a book from the horror genre. Hard mode, not Stephen King or H.P. Lovecraft. This was really hard for me. I don't like horror in general. But apparently, Gideon the Ninth. I was going to use Ruthless Gods, because it had, for me, which is part of the, what's it called, series? I can't remember. It's part of a series. To me, that had body horror stuff, but I guess Gideon is more horror, but not horror. I believe there is a list in there, if you don't super like horror, that has fantasy that's light on it. So I'm reading Gideon the Ninth, and this counts as a hard mode. I just have to put the name in, because I couldn't remember it. So, yes. There. Next is self-published or indie publisher. If the novel was been picked up by a publisher, it only counts if you read it when it was still self-published. And hard mode is to have it self-published and fewer than 100 Goodreads on 100 ratings on Goodreads, or the indie publisher has done an AMA. And I've picked First Magic by Nicole Dragonbeck. I got this in a book box as well. I don't know if she's the publisher, but it's definitely indie, and I don't think she's got very many. Did I look? There's 24 reviews, so yes. This is hard mode. Next we have set in the Middle Eastern sci-fi fantasy. Read a book that is set in the Middle East or analogous, I can't say that word, setting. There is a Wikipedia link that says what the Middle East is. They give some examples. Hard mode, the author is of Middle Eastern heritage. This one was hard because I have some books, but I've read them already and I don't want to reread them. So I picked, and I've already read, Squire by Nadia Shamas. It's a graphic novel. I picked it up on my library and it was a good time. I will talk about it more in my wrap-up. Next is, published in 2023. Hard mode, its debut novel. So I've picked, as I always do for published in blank, because I think this is also permanent, One Piece. The new volume comes out in December of 2023. So yes. If I don't get it, if it gets pushed back, I do have another one that I pre-ordered that comes out in August. So I think I can put that in there. But this is not hard mode either way. Next is Multiverse and Alternate Realities. Read a book in which the setting contains at least 2 universes, etc., etc. A hard mode, characters do not walk through a literal door in order to get to another world. Again, this one was kind of hard because the books they recommended I'd already read, but I've got Magician Apprentice by Raymond E. Feist. And that's pretty much all I know about this book. I personally like to plug it in like as soon as it comes out, but other people obviously can like read the book and be like, oh, this is a Middle East has a multiverse or Middle Eastern, and plug that in. This I'm just saying. So yeah. Next is POC author. Author must be a person of color. The hard mode novel takes place... for that, Magician Apprentice is hard mode. But hard mode for the POC author, novel takes place in futuristic sci-fi world. What have I picked? Okay. I've picked Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This is not hard mode, but I want to read it, so that's why it's on the list. I've talked about this before, so. Next is a book club or read-along book. They always have a list. It can be past or active. They have a lot of book clubs or read-alongs if you want to do that. And the hard mode must read a current selection of either a book club or read-along. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the current selections, but I do have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I added this to a list like 2 years ago. I never got around to it, but this time we're getting around to it for sure. Excited. I have a bookmark in there, but I don't remember any of it. Next is novella. Read a work of fiction between 17,500 or 40,000 words. Hard mode novella is not published by Tor.com Publishing. I am picking A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. I have that on Libby. It's audiobook form. And I'm just checking. No, it is hard mode. This one was also hard for me. I don't have a lot of novellas, and the ones they recommended, again, I've already read, so. Next, Mythical Beasts. Read a book that prominently features at least one mythical beast. Hard mode, no dragons or dragon-like creatures. Well, let me tell you, that doesn't fly in this household. I do have a couple about phoenixes or something, but I've picked Dragon Avenger by E.E. Knight, the book 2 in the Age of Fire, because I fucking love dragons, and I'm going to read about them whenever I can. So, there. This is about Wistala, the sister of the main character from the first book, whose name I don't remember. E.E. Knight writes a lot about dragons. He's got that whole series and, like, another one, I think. Or I'm not sure what gender they are. I apologize. Next, Elemental Magic. Read a book that has elemental magic. Earth, wind, water, fire. Hard mode, not V.E. Schwab or Jim Butcher. They have 2 series mentioned specifically. I've picked... It was in the recommendations. Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World. So this is a hard mode. I think a lot of people know about this, but it's about a kid who might be somebody reincarnated, and it's like 13 or more books. So yeah, it's a chunky one. Next is Myths and Retelling. Read a book that is based on a myth or pre-existing story. Hard mode, not Greek or Roman. This was really hard for me because I have 3 that are Greeks. But then, when I was looking at my list of books, I found, oh god, this book is heavy, Upon a Burning Throne by Ashok K. Banker, which is a retelling of Indian mythology. So excited for this one. Look how chunky it is. Which just goes along with Indian mythology because the 2 of their most famous ones are like a bajillion times longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey. Like a bajillion. I guess even the movies based on it are like hours long. So excited once again. Next, a queer norm setting, which is a book set in a world where queerness is perfectly normal and accepted. Hard mode, not a futuristic setting, takes place in a time akin to ours in the past or a fantasy world. Again, I found this I wasn't sure about this one. The recommendations thread came in handy. Nemesis. No, sorry. I have Babylon's Ashes, but I don't think this is the right book. It's Babylon's Ashes. Let me just cover that up. By James S.A. Corey. And this is set in the future. What? Did I read that? I feel like I read that. Why was it like that? Nemesis. I can't spell. How do you spell that? Yeah, I read that. So, I don't know why this was like that on my bookshelf, but it's Babylon's Ashes, which is book 6 in the Expanse series. And just continues on with that. I'm sure it'll be more tragedy. Okay, we'll put this up. I don't know if you can see on my bookshelves behind me. The books I haven't read are page side out, not spine side. So that was page side out. And I don't know why. Because I'm an idiot, I suppose. Next is coastal or island setting. Story features a major setting that is near or surrounded by the sea. Hard mode, the book also features seafaring. Again, this was really hard for me until I switched the mythology thing. Bam! Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is about Ariadne, Princess of Crete, which is an island. And then fucking Theseus shows up and they flee, which is seafaring. So yeah. Bam! So that is hard mode. Next I have, where is it? Over here. Druid. Book that heavily features Druid. Hard mode, not the Iron Druid Chronicles. I don't have that, so I've got the Elfstones of Shannara, which I think has Alanon in it, who is a Druid. If not, I will read it and find out, but I do have... I already read this for last year's, and I do have the... Alanon is in this one, so I can always put in this one instead. But I think that's the only books I have about druids. Did I have one? I'm not sure if I had another one and got rid of it. So next is it features robots. Androids, anything. Hard mode, robot is the protagonist, and I've picked the Tea from an Empty Cup by Pat Cadigan. This is part of a cyberpunk thing, so I'm going to just assume there are robots in it. but they are not, as far as I'm aware, they are not the protagonist. So if you got cyberpunk, you got robots or androids. If not, I think I've got another cyberpunk book. And then again, if not, I might have to go back to the recommendations thread. Okay. And finally, we have a sequel. Oops, I closed that page. Dang it. Sequel. Obvious. It's a Rito sequel. Hard mode, it's book 3 or on in the series, and I'm picking Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. So this is not hard mode because this is book 2. I could have picked Percy Jackson because that's book 4. So, but I don't know. This just felt right to me for that one. But yeah, those are the, well, I guess 22 books I can show you. 1 I've pre-ordered and 2 are from the library. But yeah, that's what I plan to read for that. Things may change. Last year I did a lot of last minute fiddling because I was like, I can't read this book in time. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.